بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على محمد وأهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد وعجل فرجهم. So in book God's Emissaries, in the last class, we were talking about the flood of Nabi Nuh alayhi salam. This flood was coming and happening, and people were frantic and wondering what was going on, while Nabi Nuh alayhi salam was preparing for this thing all along. So he had built the ark that Allah had instructed him to build, that he was taught how to build it. And this was the first type of ship, to go on to be made for water. So a lot of people were making fun of him and laughing at him. But in the end, this boat they got salvation by boarding on this boat. And some people didn't want to get on. For example, Noah's wife, we spoke about the wife he had that was not good, that gave example in Quran. Her name was Rabia. And then we have the son of Nuh. His name was Canaan. Here in the book, we left off on page 105 on this part. And he said that when Nabi Nuh alayhi salam got on the boat, he expected, his son to join him, but the water was rising really fast and he didn't find any sign of him. He's looking for him, but he doesn't see him. And right when they're, about to close all the doors, he sees him in the distance. So he calls out to his son, "Oh, my son, come on this boat with us, this ark, and don't remain with the disbelieving people." But he didn't know that his son was not among the believers. So his son said, "I'll, take some refuge on that mountain, and this mountain will protect me from the water." But Prophet Noah alayhi salam says, "Nothing on this day can protect anyone from Allah's command except whom Allah has mercy on him." So we see that he thought something else could save him other than Allah. He said, "I go to this mountain will save me. I'll be okay over there." But really, the reliance needs to be on Allah to save you, not the mountain to save you. As we were speaking in the other class, that we have to rely on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The ultimate reliance is on Him. And He is our wakil, the best disposer of our affairs. And Prophet Noah alayhi salam, said, "Nothing can protect you this day except Allah has mercy on them." And the prerequisite for Allah's mercy is belief and obedience. And he said, with that, the wave surged between them, and he became one of those who were drowned. So his son drowned. So we always have to trust in Allah's plan and follow Allah's prophet, even if the majority are against him. And we shouldn't become so close to the disbelievers that we abandon the believers because of our affiliation with those wrongdoers. That we have to obey our prophet no matter if all of the people are turning away from him. We have to go with our prophet because he is the one sent by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Our prophet says do this, everyone else in society says do that. We do what our prophet has told us to do, because our religion is not with majority of the majority doesn't mean anything. What really matters and what really means something is what Quran says, what Ahlul Bayt alayhimus salam, what they say, Holy Prophet and Fatima Zahra and the 12 Imams alayhimus salam. This is where our allegiance lies, and this is where we place Allah and His Prophet as the judge of our affairs, the decider of our affairs. And we have narration where a Holy Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam has told Ammar ibn Yasir that if Imam Ali alayhi salam goes in this valley and all of the people go in the other one, you go with Imam Ali alayhi salam. You stick to Ali. So we see that no matter all these people are going this way, we have to stick with the Prophet of Allah and with the ones that he has appointed. In this case, the people were supposed to stick with Prophet Noah alayhi salam. His son, he should have chosen the path of the religion of the Messenger of Allah, not with what majority of people were doing. But he had more faith and affiliation with the disbelievers, that all of these people are, doing this, and this mountain is here. I'll be okay over here. I don't need to go with you. We have to stay firm in our religion and hold fast to the rope of Allah, which is holding on to the way of our Prophet. Noah called, is the text that says, Noah called out to his Lord and said, my son is from my family, and your promise is true, and you are the best of judges. So Noah didn't have any problem about the necessary destruction of the non-believers in this case. He says, after all his merciful efforts to teach them and convince them of the truth, only the most wretched of people had refused. Once Allah told him, no one from your people shall believe except those who have already believed. He had called down Allah's wrath on every last one of them, saying, O Lord, do not leave a single being from the non-believers on the earth. Noah, the first of the messengers of great resolve, was not one to compromise on his principles and the duty for the sake of familial ties, family ties. Even if his son were to reject his call, he would be all right with Allah's decree. If Allah sent his wrath on him, then he has to submit to Allah's decree. He tried his best to guide him, but he has to, in the ultimate end, he cannot turn ungrateful to Allah because of this. It was the concern, he says it was his concern. It was not a weakness that called Noah to plead with Allah. It was concern over his own duty. He had been ordered to lead into the ark your family. We see from Quran, Surah 23, Ayat 27. Allah said, bring your family in the ark. And his son was from his family. And to the best of his knowledge, he thought his son had been a believer. So he wanted to know whether his duty was fulfilled or not by bringing his son on board. He wanted to bring him on board because Allah told him, bring your family on board. He says, however, he knew that whatever Allah's judgment would be just, for he is the best of the judges. So Allah told Prophet Noah, Noah, he is not from among those family members whom I promised to save. So in the footnote, it says, some are of the opinion that his son Canaan was not truly Noah's son, but an illegitimate child Noah's wife had fooled Noah into thinking was his own. However, the verses of the Quran clearly state that he was his son. And Imam Rida alayhi salam refutes these defamatory claims, saying that he was indeed his son, but when he sinned against Allah, Allah disowned him on Noah's behalf. This is from Uyun al-Akhbar Rida, Volume 2 from Sheikh Saduq. Also in Bahar Anwar from Allama Majlisi in several places. So we see that he was the son of Noah, but Allah severed that family tie when he disbelieved. This is something very hard to deal with, to have you being a believer and having a son that turns to kafir, disbeliever, or someone who's an atheist or something like this. It's very hard. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to save us from that trial. But we have to have ultimate trust in Allah and just keep asking Allah. Allah loves persistence. We're persistent in our dua and never give up on them. Always ask Allah to guide them, to help them, to bring them back and be persistent. And I've mentioned this story before somewhere else probably, but I'll bring it again, that one of the scholars, he was in one of the late Maharaja, he was living in Kuwait, and one of the youth were there. It was either Kuwait or Iraq when this happened. The communism came in that time very strong. A lot of people were leaving Islam. And one youth used to go to the lessons of the marja, and then he quit coming. And this guy owned a shop in the bazaar, and the Sayyid would pass by his shop every day on the way to Salat, to lead Salat al-Jama'ah. So every day he would walk by, to go lead Salat. He would pass by this youth's shop. Salamu alaikum. The guy would turn his face and not say salam. The next day, Salamu alaikum. How are you? No answer. This went on for like 1 year. The late Marja, his son was telling me the story. So this went on for like 1 year. And then, he's persistent. He's saying you need to be persistent. This scholar said salam. Most of the time we say salam one time and someone didn't salam us back. We say, oh man, forget that person. Who cares? They don't want to give me salam. Who do they think they are? Blah, blah, blah. And I don't want to talk to them, and forget those people. And I'll take another way. I don't even want to see this person's face. Sayyid kept going every day. Salamu alaikum, salamu alaikum, every day. After 1 year, this guy, Allah changed something in his heart, and he felt ashamed of what he was doing and not replying salam to Sayyid, and what he was doing, and how the Sayyid was so kind to him, and how he should go back to the Sayyid's class and turn back to Islam. And he replied to his salam, and he left the communism, and he came back to Islam. Persistence. So we have to not give up on people easily. We don't have to force them or anything like this, but we need to be persistent in asking dua from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to change those people's ways, to change even if they're Muslim, but they're doing fasad or corruption or sins and these things. Ask Allah to help them, to guide them, to change them, and guide them towards the right path. We shouldn't, the first person that does us wrong, we're doing la'na on them. You know what I mean? Like, Allah can still change that person. They're alive. They didn't die on bad belief. For example, these people are alive. They did one thing wrong with us. We cut our ties. No, we should always ask Allah, change that person's heart. Bring them to Islam. They have a problem with me. Soften their heart towards me. Let things be right between us. Give salam to them. Fulfill your obligation of salam. He says, Allah replied, Noah, he is not from among those family members who I promised to save, for he is the embodiment of an unrighteous act. So do not ask me for that about which you have no knowledge. I warn you about this, lest you become amongst the foolish. Noah, of course, had not asked for his son to be spared. He had only skirted gingerly around the question so that he could know the truth about his son's situation. Nonetheless, Allah is strict with his closest servants, and so he warned him to ensure that he remained within the bounds of his limits. In turn, Noah, in complete subservience to Allah, said, O Lord, I seek refuge in you from asking about which I have no knowledge. If you do not absolve me and have mercy on me, I shall be among the losers. This is Quran, Surah 11, ayat 46 through 47. So we see that Noah wanted his son to be guided, and he tried his best, but in the end, his son chose the wrong way, and he had to submit to Allah's will, Allah's command in this affair. He did not complain to Allah and say, "Oh Allah, why didn't you save him? Why didn't you change his heart? Why didn't you make him a mu'min?" And complain against Allah in this. It's very difficult, but he had to be submissive to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in all our affairs. Said the waters rose so high that all the earth was submerged. Allah drowned those who rejected his signs, for they were a people blinded by their foolishness. They had been sufficiently warned. They were an evil people, so he drowned them all. He made them a sign of warning for all people, and he has prepared a painful punishment for those wrongdoers. Therein they shall not find anyone to aid them against Allah. These ones that he is mentioning are ayats from Quran. Allah told Noah that before he boarded the ark, whenever you fear that your ark might fail, hail my oneness 1,000 times and beg me for salvation, and I will grant it. So if you feel like this boat, the storm is strong and this boat is going to sink, or something is going to be, a wave is going to overtake this boat, then call on me 1,000 times by my oneness and beg me for salvation, and I will grant this salvation to you. At one point, a big wave pressed on the ark with such force, it says, that Noah felt a pang of desperation and fear. He remembered Allah's admonishment, but he felt he had no time to repeat that prayer 1,000 times. Doing tasbih is 100 times, but that's 10 times. We're having more than that. We have to do 1,000 times. So he felt like he did, in this moment is desperation. He doesn't have the time to do 1,000 times. So at the last moment, he said, there is no God but Allah 1,000 times. La ilaha illallah by 1,000 times. Then he said, Lord, through my children, through Muhammad and his family, save us. He did tawassul of Ahlul Bayt alayhi salam. Then the gate opened, the gale, the wave, it went away, subsided. The ark sailed smoothly on the water once again. And then after the flood, Noah, as he says, Noah would recall these words through which Allah saved him, and he etched them into the ring. We have Aqiq. I don't know if you can see, like here, have the writing on, like this one, have name of Abbas, for example. He took these names of Ahlul Bayt alayhi salam, and he wrote them on the ring, etched them into the stone of Aqiq. So we see that this sunnah is going all the way back to time of Nabi Nuh alayhi salam. I did lecture on this before, but when we look into Hayatul Qulub, Volume 1 by Alama Majlisi, we see that all of prophets did tawassul of Ahlul Bayt alayhi salam. For example, we spoke of Nabi Adam and Hawa alayhi salam, that they called on Allah by these names of Ahlul Bayt, by Prophet Muhammad, Imam Ali, Fatima, Hassan, Hussein alayhi salam. And we see later here that Nabi Nuh has done the same. Later we will also see that Nabi Yusuf alayhi salam and the well did the same. We see that Nabi Ibrahim alayhi salam in the fire did the same. All of these prophets, when they faced hardship, they used the names of Ahlul Bayt, and the hardship subsided. So the author says, thus did Allah save Noah and his family from their tremendous grief. And he saved them from a people who have rejected Allah's signs. He made him and those who were with him in the ark succeed their predecessors. In all that is a sign that Allah's threats of punishment are not empty, a sign that Allah has invincible power, a sign that Allah unfailingly fulfills his promises to the believers, and a sign that he is ever merciful in his dealing with his friends. So we see that Allah has fulfilled this promise that he had made for Prophet Noah. That when the storm, that he saved him from the disbelievers, that he saved the believers on the ark, and that that promise was fulfilled. And also that when the difficulties come, look at our life, for example. Imagine we are on a boat and we are on an ark, and troubles are hitting us from all sides. we're having financial problems, marital problems, family problems, job problems. In America, so many problems. We have problem after problem after problem. And all of these things are hitting us. Think of Nabi Nuh in that boat, all those waves hitting him. And what did he do? He called out on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and he did tawassul through Ahlul Bayt alayhi salam. We have tawfiq, the divine privilege to even know that these blessed names exist. Think of society. How many people don't know the name of Ali, don't know the name of Fatima, Hassan, Hussein? They don't know anything about these people. But we have tawfiq that we know the stories of them. We know their significance. We know their pivotal position in the life of this world and the life of hereafter. And that we have these blessed individuals that we can ask Allah, by the right of these blessed people who are the closest to you, please solve these problems. This is prophetic sunnah. It says, as for the ark, he made it a sign for all the people. He left the ark as a sign. Is there anyone who will heed his sign? These are ayat from Quran. How terrible was his punishment and how complete his warning. It will remain preserved for people to discover, so they will know that this story is real, that Allah is real, that his promise is real, and that his threat is real. I remember reading a long time ago, I believe it was in a book called The Missing Link, that they found a piece of Noah's Ark, like a plank of wood, and it had written on it these words in that ancient language, and they were able to translate those words, and they were the names of the five: Muhammad, Ali, Fatima, Hassan, Hussein. And it was in some news as well, some newspapers, that these names were written on this ark. It was very interesting. But we do see that Prophet Noah called on these names of Ahlul Bayt alayhi salam. He says, only the Kaaba was protected miraculously from being submerged. Because it was saved from the flood, it became known as Al-Bayt al-Atiq. Al-Bayt al-Atiq, the house that was spared. This is mentioned in Bahar al-Anwar. It says, "I'taq" means to free something or to save something. Based on this, one meaning of Bayt al-Atiq is the house that was spared. So we see that the Kaaba was not submerged in this flood, and that it was spared, and this is how it got this title. Said the waters carried the ark to Becca. Becca is the old name for Mecca, the ancient name. There Allah commanded Noah to descend from the ark to Mount Abu Qubais, so that he could collect the remains of Nabi Adam alayhi salam. So he took the remains of Adam from this place he was buried. He stowed these remains in a wooden chest in the ark, and then they continued their journey. So he collected these bones of the Prophet Adam. He says the jinn survived the flood by changing into spirits and floating on the wind above the water, which is mentioned in Bahar al-Anwar, volume 11. Presumably, creatures of the sea survived without any special effort on Noah's part, because they're already in that sea. Noah and his companions remained in the ark for some time until Allah decreed, "O earth, swallow up your water, O sky, cease your downpour," which is Quran ayat, Surah 11, ayat 44. So the sky withheld its moisture, the earth absorbed its water according to Allah's decree, and abstained from absorbing the water of the sky, which remained on the earth's surface. Gabriel was commissioned to guide this water to the earth's oceans and lakes, and the ark came to rest on a great mountain. At this, Allah declared, "Gone are the wrongdoers," which is Surah 11, Ayat 144. Then he said, "O Noah, go forth with our peace and blessings with you and with those communities who will issue from those who are with you." This is yeah. Then he goes on to say, "And there will be communities among them whom we will make prosper, and afterward they will be afflicted by our painful punishment." He continued, "I hereby make the rainbow a sign of sanctuary and a covenant with my servants from now until the day of judgment, that I shall not drown them again. And who is more faithful to his covenant than I?" This is mentioned in Al-Jawahir al-Saniya. So about this rainbow. Also, Christians have this same story about rainbow between the covenant and between Noah, that they will not flood the earth completely again. Unfortunately, this sign of rainbow has been hijacked by other groups, but this was a sign from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that he would not flood the earth again. He said Noah lived for 500 years after this flood. During this time, he was responsible for repopulating the earth, rebuilding its cities, establishing the first civil society based on the law of Allah. This is mentioned in Bahar al-Anwar. So he had a Sharia or divine law from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and society was built on this. He said, with 80 or so people and an ark full of animals, he did this and became the second father of mankind. One of the first things Noah did after getting down from this ark was to take this chest that had Adam's bones, Prophet Adam, and he took it and he buried it outside Kufa in modern day Najaf. Najaf and Kufa is like the same area. It's maybe 15 minutes driving, 10, 15 minutes is very close. So they're considered the same province and same city, actually, just different area. So he buried it outside of Kufa, which is now the part which is Najaf. And we know that this same place where Adam is buried, also Nabi Noah is buried in this place too. And this is the same place with Amir al-Mu'mineen, Imam Ali alayhi salam is buried. So in the shrine of Imam Ali is buried Adam, Nuh, and Imam Ali alayhi salam. So we see when we do ziyarat, we send salam to Nabi Adam, we send salam to Nabi Nuh, we send salam to Amir al-Mu'mineen alayhim salam. And another thing is like outside of Haram, of when you go back to the backside of Haram of Wadi as-Salam, the biggest graveyard in the world, actually, there is also buried Nabi Hud and Nabi Saleh. It's two other prophets who we discuss about Nabi Hud after this section of Nabi Nuh, but they are also buried there. So we have 4 prophets buried there and Imam in this same place as of Najaf. So it says in the book, once Shaitan came to Noah and told him, I owe you a favor for what you've done for me. So, imagine Shaitan coming to you, say, I owe you a favor, So Noah responded disdainfully, it's repugnant for me that I should have done you a favor. Don't do favors for Shaitan. But Allah spoke to Noah and told him, speak with him, ask him what he has to say. So Allah told Nabi Noah, go ahead, talk to Shaitan, see what he has to say. For I shall cause him to speak to his own detriment. Noah ordered Shaitan to speak. So he said, When we find that a son of Adam is miserly, greedy, jealous, arrogant, or impatient, we pounce on him to misguide him. And when all these traits join together in one person, we call him a shaitan. Like we have shayateen from jinn and men mentioned in Quran, shayateen min al jinn wal ins, from jinn and men. So shayateen are not just jinn. We have people that are shayateen. They are devils that are doing all of these haram. They are like shayateen. We see that here, Shaitan is telling Noah alayhi salam, that if they have all of these qualities in one person, they are like a shaitan, miserly, to be stingy, to be greedy, to be jealous of other people, to be arrogant, and also to be impatient. I pray to God we don't run into someone like this. This is all the bad qualities in one person. Noah asked him, what is this favor I've done for you? I did this favor for you. What is it? Tell me. Shaitan said, that you prayed for your people's destruction, and in response, Allah destroyed them. Now my work has been made much easier, at least until another generation comes along for me to misguide. I shall repay this favor by teaching you some things. Think of me during 3 times. Shaitan saying, think of me, think of Shaitan in 3 situations. For it is then that I have the most influence over one of God's servants. Think of me when you are angry. When we are angry, we have a riwayah that said that we are standing and we are angry, we should sit. And if we are sitting down and we are angry, we should lie down. Take a nap. Let it go, Or you lie down, you end up taking a nap and the thing will pass. So he says, think of me when you are angry. Think of me when you arbitrate between 2 groups of people. You're trying to make peace between 2 people. Think of me in this time. And think of me when you are illicitly alone with a woman. When you are in the private company of a woman, a non-mahram woman, think of me in this time. Because this is when the shaitan is the third party. It says you are alone with other woman, non-mahram. Shaitan is like the third party. The shaitan is making ideas for you and also for her, and it's not good. So we should avoid these type of situations the most that we can. So I think that we are running out. Well, we have just 1 paragraph left. We have time, and we'll end the section with Nabi Nuh, and next week we'll start with Nabi Hud. So he says, as Noah neared the end of his life, he was approached by Jibreel, who told him on Allah's behalf, your prophethood is nearing its end, and you have lived out your days. Think now of your legacy of knowledge and the relics of past prophets, and turn these over to your son Shem. For I never leave the earth without one endowed with knowledge through whom people can be guided, a hujjah, for example, and know how to obey me between the death of one prophet and the commencement of the mission of another. And I would never leave the people without one who knows me to witness their deeds and call them to me and guide them to my path. I have decided to set up for every people a guide through whom I can guide those who choose to be felicitous and who will be my witness against those who chose to be wretched. So Allah will send us a guide. Allah will always have a proof on the earth, a hujjah on earth, from beginning of time to end of time. And we know now the Hujjatullah fi ardih, the proof of Allah and His earth, is Imam Mahdi Ajallah Ta'ala Farajahu Sharif. Noah turned over his legacy of knowledge and the relics of past prophets to his son Shem. Then he turned to his closest followers and said, after I am gone, there will be a time when no prophet will be among you. During this time, evil people will rise to power. Allah Almighty will relieve you through one of my progeny who will rise up. His name will be Hud. He will be demure and dignified. He will look and act like me. During his time, Allah will destroy your enemies with a wind. So he's prophesying that another prophet will come from his progeny later. But in the meantime, there will be successors of prophet to carry on the message and be a hujjah on earth. He then exhorted Shem to open the written mandate he had given him every year and read it so that the anniversary would become a festival for all people. And he exhorted people to fast on the 1st of Rajab, on the anniversary of their salvation from Allah's enemies by the means of the flood. When the angel of death finally came to claim his soul, Noah was standing in the sun. He asked permission to move from the sun to the shade. Then he reflected momentarily on his long life. Noah lived so long. And he said to angel of death, all that happened to me in this worldly life seems as short-lived as my movement from the sun into this shade. And with that, Malakul Maut, angel of death, took his soul. And then Shem, his son, buried his father on the outskirts of Kufa in the modern-day Najaf, next to the resting place of Adam's bones, which we mentioned was the place where Amir al-Mu'mineen, Imam Ali alayhi salam, is also buried. May Allah grant us tawfiq to go visit Najaf, Al-Ashraf soon, inshallah, to pay our respect and give our salam to Amir al-Mu'mineen, Ali alayhi salam, and to Nabi Adam, Nabi Nuh, Nabi Hud, Nabi Saleh, inshallah, and to be able to visit the Masjid al-Kufa to see where this Ark of Noah departed from. And all of these stories of the Prophet, it's like you are seeing them in the land that they lived. We see the maqam of these prophets in Kufa. We see the place Nabi Idris was, Nabi Nuh, all of these prophets, we can go visit there, inshallah. We ask Allah for this, and inshallah, we make some effort to put some money aside and go soon, inshallah. With this, we'll end. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Allahumma salli ala
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. Jazakallah Maulana. Thank you so much.
Our pleasure. Alhamdulillah.